everyone, and welcome to a very special video of a new series I am calling Lore Out of Context. In this series, I am taking a bit of Dream SMP lore, picking it apart, analyzing it, and then putting it back into the overall context of the Dream SMP arc, or anybody's lore in general. Now, if you've been living under a rock, or you just are only subscribed to Dream's main YouTube channel, you may not realize he has another YouTube channel called DreamXD, and we got a lore video from him, from Dream's POV. Finally, after all this time. It happened the other night, he posted it, it's only 2 minutes long, I'll link it down below, and that is what we are analyzing today. Before we get into the video, make sure to like and subscribe, or just subscribe, or neither, or both. I'm trying to hit 1,700 subscribers by the month of May because brand. So it would really mean a lot. Also, if you enjoy this video, or you've noticed some things that I missed, comment them down below, and yeah, let's get back to the video. Also, real quick, I have notes on my computer that I will be referencing, so if you see me looking here and then looking up at the camera, that's why I'm reading notes. First thing of note, we have that Punz knows the contents of the revival book. Previously, we only knew of 2 people who knew the contents of the revival book, that being Schlatt and Dream, although it was never confirmed if Schlatt actually read the book, he just had it. So now we have another confirmed person who knows the contents of the revival book, which also means he might know how to revive people. And this makes a lot of sense because Dream wouldn't want to be the only person with the contents of the revival book, because if he dies on accident in lore where it's canon, he can't come back because you can't necessarily revive yourself from the dead unless that's one of the things they worked on, obviously. So having Punz, his ally, also know the contents of the revival book is a really nice contingency plan, but it also means that Punz has a lot more power on the server than we previously thought. We knew he was a strong character, a strong fighter, a strong player in general, but that means he's got a lot more going on behind the scenes than we thought. And with the recent confirmation that the whole disc confrontation was planned, it means that he's been involved in Dream's story from a long time ago. And that's pretty frightening to think about. Also, because of that, he could potentially use his knowledge of revival as a sort of power with his mercenary skills. We know he's a for-hire mercenary, and a lot of people would want to hire him to revive someone, most likely. Secondly, Vikkstar and Laserbeam's canon lives. Do they exist? Do they not? Not really sure. In the video, there is 4 deaths that are shown on screen, but 6 are implied, so there are 2 more that are shown, but you don't actually see them, you don't see the death animation, if that makes sense. So because of that, we know that they've at least gone through all 3 of their canonical lives in order to be revived, essentially. And so because of that, we don't actually know how many canon lives they have left. We know, theoretically, from Wilbur and Tommy, that you technically have 1 canon life when you get revived, but we don't know that for sure. That's just a guess. We don't know if that's been confirmed, and really the only person who would know that is Dream if he was testing it on them, considering he killed them more times than 3. The other thing is, we don't actually know if they're alive or dead still. In the video, Dream did say that whoever he tests his theory on for revival has to stay dead at the end, but the final animation we see from them is Vic and Laser being revived. So there's a good possibility that they could just be sitting there waiting in whatever sort of prison cell they were in and be left alone, which also makes me wonder what Punz has been doing this whole time if they are left alive. And also, was there a point to keeping them dead while Dream was in prison, or was Punz keeping them alive and testing them for revival on his own? We don't know. The other thing is, we know that they weren't dead very long because in Dream's revival stream of Tommy, he was asking him about what death is like, and the reason he kept him dead for a couple days was for Tommy to fully experience death so he could come back and talk to him about it, which means he hadn't gotten that far in his experiments yet with the revival book. He only had been able to master bringing them back right away, which also means we don't know how long Vic and Laser were in limbo, if they were at all. I mean, there's a chance they could have been in limbo because obviously time works different that way, so there's a chance they could have met up with Wilbur and Schlatt and Mexican Dream. Probably not Tommy though, because of the whole, he never mentioned it when Tommy was dead. He said that he only interacted with Schlatt, Mexican Dream, and Wilbur, but there's a potential chance that they did interact with each other in limbo, and specifically Wilbur would know then, being revived, that Vic and Laser are being tested on by Dream, which might be the reason why Wilbur has such confidence in Dream and why he worships him so much now. In addition, we know that when Tommy was in Limbo, he talked with Wilbur, and Wilbur had some big plans for when he was coming back, and spending 13 years in Limbo is a very long time, so there could have been a point where Wilbur didn't think he was going to be able to be revived, because at the time nobody knew about the revival book until Wilbur was dead. So it stands to reason then that Wilbur knew he was going to be revived because he talked to people who had been constantly revived, meaning Vic and Laser. And that could have been when he started forming his plan for when he was revived, thinking he probably would be at some point because he knew he was such an important villain, character, hero, whatever you want to call him on the SMP. Real quick side note, Dream has access to end crystals somehow. We saw in the video that was one of the ways he tested on Vic and Laser. We also know that using the revival book on somebody who is alive, because of the Techno and Dream Prison podcast stream, summons DreamXD, so that could have been how he got that. Also, that could have been how DreamXD had confirmation that Dream had found the book. Granted, DreamXD probably would have known that from the first place because he's a god, obviously, but that's the only way I can understand that happening, because I don't see how Dream would have access to the end unless DreamXD let him, but I don't know how you would manipulate a god into giving you access to his kingdom. So I'm assuming it was one of those, he used the revival book on someone who was alive to see what would happen. DreamXD came in, said, "What is your wish?" And he said, "How about an end crystal?" And that's how that happened. Otherwise, I don't really know how to explain Dream having an end crystal in this video, but I guess we'd have to wait for confirmation from himself. And lastly, Dream and Rambu. We now have pretty much confirmed that Dream was actually manipulating Rambu. I mean, it stands to reason with all of the sort of hints that both content creators have given us over time, but we don't know for sure, because this could just be more visions of Rambu having in his head that Dream has chosen to show us in this lore video. However, if we are taking this as fact that Dream is the one manipulating Rambu and it's not all in his head, we can also show that Dream was able to manipulate Rambu from inside the prison, which is crazy to think about, and also we don't know for sure how he was able to manage that power. Does that have something to do with the revival book? Was Rambu also being tested with the revival book? We don't know. The guy doesn't have many memories, and he's dead too, so no idea. What we can confirm though is Rambu was most likely the one responsible for the original TNT that shut the prison down when Tommy was in jail cell with Dream. We saw the TNT falling on what looked to be obsidian. It's kind of hard to see in the video, but it looks to be the same material as obsidian, and also observers flying away, kind of like the flying machine that Sam is now using as the World Eater. I think that's what he calls it. And Dream, also being a skilled redstone maker himself, or talking with Sam at least, would have understood to ask him how to make said flying machine and then given Rambu the instructions, or Rambu could have figured it out on his own. We don't know. Also, Bad was handing some information to Rambu and looking very suspicious doing it. The community has pretty much deduced that this is the blueprints to the prison, which would make sense because I don't think Dream would have hid them somewhere until he knew he was going to be in prison, and or after he was in prison, because he didn't want anyone else, especially on Tommy's side, who the prison was originally built for, to potentially get those blueprints and then aid Tommy in escaping or something else like that. And the fact is, we know that this was later on because it was done outside the B&Boo Hotel, which was built after Dream was in prison. And it was most likely after Bad became a guard because he wouldn't have access to the blueprints otherwise. And lastly, this could also be how Techno was able to get the blueprints to the prison. Dream manipulated Rambu into getting the blueprints from Bad, and then he also gave Rambu the coordinates to where him and Techno first met in order to hide said blueprints for Techno later to find, to then break him out. Because if anyone's going to be able to break Dream out of prison, obviously it would be Techno out of everybody else on the server. This could be one of the reasons why Rambu was in prison when Dream made his escape. It could also be because Sam had figured out the TNT on the prison. We're not sure. It could be both. But what we do know is that it is very interesting the way Dream reacted to Rambu being killed. He didn't seem to care. Then again, he also has the revival book, so it doesn't really matter to him. But we know that Rambu being able to blindly work for Dream and not really remember a thing makes him very valuable to Dream. And most likely Punz knows this too, I'm assuming. So because of that, a Rambu revival is probably in the works. Not sure how long down the line, obviously that's up to the creators, but it stands to reason that he would probably want to revive Rambu, unless he wants to test his manipulation tactics on Ghost Boo. But for some reason, I don't think Ghost Boo would be as easily controlled as regular alive Rambu, I guess. And lastly, everybody thought Dream was the big bad of the server, but it turns out that Punz could be just as bad of a villain if he chooses to. I mean, he's been involved in this from the get-go. He knew the disc confrontation was planned. He knew that Dream planned to go into prison. He knows the contents of the revival book, so honestly, I'm just very interested to see lore from Punz's character. And I'm very, very, very interested to see if Dream posts any more lore videos on his DreamXD account. He did say that he was planning to do them more in the future, keeping them on the short side of course, but only time will tell. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down below if I missed anything, and also let me know what you think of this new series. Do you think it's something I should continue, or is this just kind of a one and done because of this random video? Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!